My name is Erica Varai Santos, and I am the teacher and coordinator of the Social Justice Academy.
What is your honest opinion about Asian hate?
I honestly feel like a lot of the interpersonal conflict that's going on, a lot of these hate crimes that are being committed are a result of just people mirroring those with institutional power, right? And because we have institutions like the government, the media right now that have been putting out a lot of Asian stereotypes around not only Asian but Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander people, it's been harmful for our communities, especially during this pandemic. But to be honest with you, that those hate crimes have always existed throughout the history of this country, right? And so I honestly feel like the disconnect is from a lack of understanding of AA, NHPI people, right? And so when I say AA, NHPI, I'm talking about Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander communities. A lot of times folks lump folks all together, right? But we're so different, and a lot of people subscribe to these stereotypes that don't really make any sense to apply to such a large group of people, right? And I think again, the disconnect comes from there's a lack of understanding because in most schools, in the media, there's no representation of these communities, right? So there's no understanding. And if most schools don't have access to ethnic studies, most of the schools are teaching, I'll just say it, they're teaching bullshit. Very whitewashed curriculum that's Eurocentric, that's focused on white supremacy and cis-heteropatriarchy, is straight up xenophobic, which means anti-immigrant. That's built into a lot of the institutions, including our schools that have become colonizing institutions, meaning ones that have been feeding the same bullshit for years. Excuse my language, but it infuriates me not only as an AAPI person, but as a person of color, as a woman of color living in this country, to see how much of our stories aren't told. And that's not just AAPI communities, that's for all folks of color, for all marginalized people. Very rarely do we talk about women, very rarely do we talk about the LGBT plus communities, right? Very rarely do we talk about immigrant people, right? There's been a very one-sided story that we've heard for years. And so people can't be surprised that there's this hatred and division that exists. We've done nothing as a society to try to build transformative solidarity, right? For folks to really understand one another. And so I have a lot of thoughts about just why it is that these hate crimes have skyrocketed, right? And a lot of it has to do with miseducation and misunderstanding.